In Taiwan, Lai Ching-te leading two other candidates in the island's election for its top leader. 34 million tourists visited Hong Kong in 2023. Hello, welcome to TVB News. Today is election day in Taiwan. Millions of voters have cast their ballots to decide the island's top leader and members of parliament in a pivotal election that can shape the island's future and chart its relations with Beijing and Washington over the next 4 years. After the polls close at 4 p.m., results have been trickling in, with the election outcome expected to clear this evening. And according to the latest vote tallies from Taiwan's TVBS, the front-runner now is the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's Lai Ching-te, who has garnered more than 4.2 million votes. Trailing behind is Ho Yu-yi of Taiwan's largest opposition nationalist party, the Kuomintang. Ho has received about 3.4 million votes so far. Former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party, or TPP, is coming last with around 2.6 million votes. When the results are final tonight, losers will concede defeat and the winner will give a victory speech. Meanwhile, in Taiwan's election day today, some 19.5 million voters are eligible to cast their ballots. More than 1 million of them are first-time voters. While the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's candidate Lai Ching-te is emerging as the front-runner in a three-way race. A political analyst is worried that Lai's victory could point to worsening cross-strait relations. Time's up. At 4 p.m., more than 17,000 polling stations closed, with the ballot counting process beginning right after. Initial tallies of votes were close among the three candidates vying to lead Taiwan. But the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's Lai Ching-te took an early lead, with a growing margin over the two other contenders, the Kuomintang's Ho Yu-yi and Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party. And this year's election spirit already high early in the morning. Some reached the voting stations before they opened at 8 a.m. A key battleground, New Taipei City here boasts the island's biggest voter base with more than 3.4 million electors. Some early birds said they're worried about long queues later in the day. Voter Miss Wu here says she couldn't sleep last night because of excitement over the election. Also casting their ballots early were the three hopefuls. KMT's host said despite all the squabbles and wrangles during campaigning, the most important thing is that everyone gets united for a better future of Taiwan after the election. TPP's Ko meanwhile said the turnout should be quite good this year. DPP's Lai said every vote counts. In Taiwan, each elector has 3 votes, 1 vote to pick the island's leader and his running mate. 2 other votes will elect members of the 113-seat Legislative Yuan in the district and party list races. After the voting period ended, the 3 candidates watched the vote counting process live with their supporters. Mr. Cho, a Kuomintang supporter, expressed worries over cross-strait stability and wars. He added there's been no economic improvement over the past few years, affecting people's livelihoods. Cheng-Ling Chen, honorary professor of the Department of Political Science at Taiwan University, said there could be not just military but also economic pressures on Taiwan if Lai Ching-te insists on Taiwan independence when elected. Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council earlier criticized Lai as a stubborn worker for Taiwan independence and destroyer of peace across the Taiwan Strait. Liu Jianchao, head of the International Department of the Communist Party of China, has met with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Washington, D.C. According to Chinese state media, the two agreed to strengthen dialogue and cooperation between the two countries. They would also continuously push forward the implementation of the consensus and outcome reached between President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden in San Francisco in November. They also exchanged views on other international and regional issues. The U.S. says Blinken stressed in the meeting the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, while raising concerns about China's human rights. Liu is the highest-ranking Chinese official to visit the U.S. after President Xi in November. The Hong Kong Tourism Board said today the city welcomed 34 million tourists last year, around half of pre-pandemic levels. But the Tourism Board said the city should not just focus on numbers. Mumu Sanai reports.
Around 34 million visitors arrived in Hong Kong last year, with December among the popular months, attracting almost 4 million people to the city. Speaking on a radio program today, the Hong Kong Tourism Board's Executive Director Ding Zhan said the mainland was the biggest source of visitors. In terms of overseas tourists, Southeast Asian countries were the largest source of arrivals. Tourists from Thailand and the Philippines actually exceeded pre-pandemic levels. Zhan said the number of tourists will continue to increase after local aviation capacity and border crossing measures are enhanced. In 2018, the city welcomed around 65 million visitors. Zhang nonetheless said numbers should not be the only focus. He said the 65 million people in 2018 included a large number of parallel traders, which he said created a terrible experience for many individuals. Zhan said the city should seek to offer a better and balanced experience for visitors. Many mainland tourists only came to Hong Kong for a day trip, leading to the low occupancy rate of hotels over the Christmas and New Year period. Although Hong Kong has introduced various attractions, such as fireworks and Night Vibes Hong Kong, many mainland visitors returned to the mainland after the event without staying overnight. Some tourists said hotels in Hong Kong are too expensive. Meanwhile, the Hong Kong Hotel Association said the industry is facing a labour shortage problem that limits the sector's ability to operate efficiently. Musonai, TVB News.
Secretary for Development Prette Lin said today the government will consider dividing large plots of land into smaller ones for sale. The measure is intended to appeal to developers after recent failed tenders. Prette Lin said on a radio program that the overall economic environment is not ideal, which affects Hong Kong as well. Lin said it is reasonable for developers to consider carefully before bidding for land plots against such a backdrop. She said dividing large plots of land into smaller ones is a way to increase the interest of developers in land sales. U.S. President Joe Biden said he still has faith in Lloyd Austin despite the defense secretary failing to inform the White House about his hospitalization for prostate cancer surgery. Biden visiting Pennsylvania on the campaign trail said Austin made a lapse in judgment.
Do you have confidence in Secretary Austin?
I do. I'm sorry.
Was it a lapse in judgment for him not to tell you earlier?
Yes.
Austin has been in hospital since the beginning of the year, and his failure to tell Biden drew criticism from lawmakers and caught the White House by surprise. Biden had rejected calls for Austin to resign. Almost 2 weeks in hospital, the Pentagon said Austin has been directing the U.S. airstrikes on Yemen from his room at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, with the room set up with classified equipment. Austin reportedly watched U.S. and British aircraft intercepting Houthi drones and hitting targets in real time. And still ahead, an increase in British military aid for Ukraine. In Hong Kong, efforts to set up a local rice database. Welcome back. The vote counting is still going on in Taiwan. Let's take another look at the figures. Tracked by Taiwan's TVBS, the frontrunner now remains the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's Lai Ching-te. He has received more than 4.7 million votes so far. Following behind is KMT's Ho Yu-yi, Taiwan's largest opposition party. He has garnered more than 3.8 million votes. Coming last is former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party. He has around 3 million votes. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak visited Ukraine and gave a large increase in military aid and assistance for 2024. Britain has committed financially to this year, but the framework is in place for a partnership that could last decades. Britain has been one of Ukraine's closest allies in its war with Russia. David Garrett reports.
Air raid sirens wail in the frosty morning air. Snow falls as the warnings of an imminent suspected Russian attack continue. Russia and Ukraine have been trading intense exchanges. People cower in the metro as Ukraine's military say they were defending against a missile attack. Some are forced to sleep in the subway. Dogs are protected from the cold and the bombs. It is this situation in Ukraine that made Britain decide to increase military aid by $230 million to well over $3 billion in 2024. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak visited Kiev to announce the package. He embraced Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky.
How are you? Very good to see you. Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
The money will allow Ukraine to buy more drones. A potential decade-long pact sees the UK and Ukraine collaborate on military training and cyber surveillance.
We stand with you today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes. Because this war is about Ukraine's right to defend itself and to determine your own future, and the Ukrainian people's historic choice to be an independent democracy at the heart of Europe.
Zelensky thanked Sunak, praising his leadership. He said this strengthens their fight against Russian aggression and likened the Ukraine-UK relationship to that of the USA and Israel. He awarded Sunak the Order of Freedom, the highest Ukrainian state honour for a non-national. There was more applause for Sunak as he addressed politicians.
I come from the world's oldest parliament to address the world's bravest, and it is an honour to do so. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
East of that, near Donetsk, shelling continues. A woman was injured and houses were heavily damaged and almost destroyed as Sunak and Zelensky met 700 kilometres away. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev warned the UK. The chairman of Moscow Security Council said any move by Britain to deploy a military contingent to Ukraine would be seen as a declaration of war against Russia. He called the British arrogant and our eternal enemies. David Garrett, TVB News.
The U.S. aviation regulator has extended the grounding of Boeing 737 MAX 9 airplanes indefinitely as it tightens oversight of Boeing itself after a plug door of a new jet blew out in mid-flight. The Federal Aviation Administration earlier said the grounding would be lifted once the planes were inspected. More from NBC News.
It was a week ago tonight that the door plug on that Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9 blew out over Portland. Today, the FAA suggested that accident raises serious concerns about Boeing's safety culture, announcing its increasing oversight of production and manufacturing at Boeing and its suppliers, including Spirit Aerosystems, which manufactured the fuselage with the suspect door plug already installed.
This is a brand new aircraft. It has just come off the line and it had significant problems, and we believe there are other manufacturing problems as well.
The FAA chief announcing an audit of the MAX 9 production line to ensure Boeing's compliance with quality procedures, increased monitoring of any in-flight events, and assessing whether a third party should oversee Boeing quality control, rather than Boeing employees acting as FAA inspectors as Congress has mandated. Today, Boeing says it supports all actions that strengthen quality and safety, and we are taking actions across our production system.
None of the Dash 9s will fly with an unsafe condition. That I can promise.
Meanwhile, several passengers are suing Boeing, claiming physical and emotional injuries from last week's accident. With Alaska and United's MAX 9 still grounded pending inspections, the FAA chief says they will not be rushed into service.
We're going to go with it when it's safe.
Meanwhile, the door plug involved in that explosion is now at the NTSB lab in Washington and will undergo analysis this weekend.
Nearly all scientists agree that 2023 was the hottest year on Earth since records began. 2 American studies have agreed with European and Japanese conclusions that last year was the warmest ever. The U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration put the average temperature of our planet at 15 degrees Celsius, 0.15 degrees warmer than the previous record holder, 2016. NASA says Earth is nearly 1.5 degrees hotter than it was 150 years ago. And their Goddard Institute said last summer was the hottest they had ever known. This means more chances of wildfires, droughts, storms, and floods. There were 28 weather disasters counted in America in 2023, by far the most, costing at least $1 billion. Back locally, Secretary for Health Lo Chung-Mao said the government is planning to adjust fees for the city's emergency services at public hospitals. He said treatment for each patient at the A&E department costs more than $2,400 per case, and most of the financial burden is shouldered by taxpayers. Lo said fees at the public hospitals' A&E services have remained unchanged at $180 for the past 7 years. He said fees for non-urgent cases seen at the A&E department should be charged a higher rate. But he said the hike should not be across the board, and the government is studying the possibility of lowering or even exempting charges on critically ill patients at the A&E department. That may also allow for more efficient management of Hong Kong's medical resources, Lo said. A local organization hopes to establish a local rice database after successfully restoring a variety of species once commonly grown in Hong Kong. Musanai reports.
Rice is a staple food for billions of people around the world, including those in Hong Kong. While Hong Kong mainly depends on imported rice these days, the city in the previous century had 33 of its own species. This golden brown-looking rice named mouse teeth is among the local species. The organization Gift from Land obtained 33 traditional rice seeds from seed banks in the US and the Philippines in 2019 before growing them in farmland in Tai Po. The team discovered that all of the species remain suitable to grow under local conditions. When compared with Japanese rice, the organization said Hong Kong's homegrown rice is less sticky. However, Hong Kong rice has stronger amylose, a polymer found in starch, making it more suitable for patients with mild diabetes. Mimus 9, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.